Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. Tonight we got a great show for you. It's this new book I got. We're going to travel all the way through it with Astral Projection. As you can see, there's the book. Anyway, it's hard to come by. It's a limited edition, and I thought it'd be very interesting reading this book because I'm sure that we're all interested in this. Or at least if you are, well, here we go. If not, well, I don't know what to tell you, but follow me on this journey because it's going to be good. And of course, we're going to share like always, but I want to thank you all for coming tonight. It is a good night to be in the Milky Way because when you learn to astral project, you can go anywhere. Either like we talked about with the black mirror the other night, now you can astral project and actually go there. So it's kind of similar. And I thought this was kind of interesting. So here we go. This is Astral Projection, the Psychonaut's Manual. So if you want to learn how to do this stuff, follow along with me. This book was written by Thomas Karlsson, PhD, is the author of the following titles: Kabbalah, Nightside, Astral Projection, Amongst the Mists, The Green Book, The Necromancer's Diary, and At the End of the Left-Hand Path. Kind of interesting. So check out those other books. I don't know where we should start. We should start in the introduction. You want to hear the introduction? Sure you do. Anyway, I got some pictures as always because I don't disappoint. And here we go with the pictures. And share. There you go. Because who wants to look at my ugly mug? But you can look at some cool picture that I got. Introduction. An atheist astronaut and a religious neurosurgeon were debating on the probability of existence of the spiritual world beyond the limits of our own physical world. Who hasn't heard about that? In all of his travels across the space, the astronaut said he claimed never having seen God, nor the kingdom of heaven, nor a single angel. The doctor listened to him attentively and replied that there are phenomena which are perfectly real, necessary for mankind's existence, and that, from the perspective of a casual worldview, they would be impossible to perceive. In all the brains he had worked on, and in all his years, he had never seen the shade of a thought. However, none would dare to doubt of its existence. None of the techniques at our disposal to measure the brain waves can inform us about the contents of the object and aim to understand thinking. Within man's apocryphal and subjective world, there's another world which is still unreachable to modern science. That of thoughts, feelings, inner experiences. It is these experiences which demonstrate that man is no machine. Or are we? Maybe we're an organic computer. Now, these are my words. Did you ever think about that? But a complex creature whose entire essence would be probability never be able to put into the terms of the casual nature of sciences. Thus, if there is indeed an inner invisible world of empirical and subjective plane hidden within our consciousness, there can also be an outer world, just as invisible and important for our existence. Throughout all ages and in all cultures of the world, we find myths, stories, testimonials of experiences regarding spiritual dimensions and techniques that man can learn to travel and experience them. And my word is, have you ever had one? Have you ever had an outer body experience? Going to the other side, seeing things that haven't happened yet or are happening? Meeting loved ones on the other side, getting messages? Let's find out. Neoplastism and the Western exorcism can call dimensional the astral world, a sort of intermediate world between the physical world of casual phenomena and the higher divine plane of being. Regardless of personal views, speculating about the nature of the worlds, it is metaphysical, philosophical, and religious. There are countless testimonials of experiences by people which describe said transition from the physical world to the existing reality, and experienceable beyond the material plane. As for these travelers, and most important thing is that they are both mentally and physically healthy, and that they can inform us objectively and soberly about their experiences. The casual worldview of our secularized civilization see these experiences with great skepticism. Wow. Yeah, there's a whole other world out there, people. Compared with this rest of the mankind's history, this view in new and unusual, but every time there has been an aspirational striving towards experiencing worlds beyond the everyday physical one. The book you hold in your hands is about out-of-body experiences and travels to the astral worlds, and offers a learning guide to techniques with which one can begin such journeys by oneself. What do you think of that? I'm ready to read. What do you think? It is thanks to my experience in astral travels and out-of-body experiences collected among many years, in which I have also discussed them and other travelers. They can say that all the descriptions that of people who have had their own experiences in the field have one thing in common. These were perceived as breathtaking, dizzying, mysterious, and wonderful experiences that one would never want to do without. Okay. Well, that sounds very interesting. I think we should go on, don't you? And we will, with a new picture too. An astral stroll through Stockholm. My cup of coffee suddenly began to wobble in a very strange way. After having drunk too many cups, like a crazy man, I felt a strong discomfort arising inside me. Nothing unusual affected me so much coffee, especially because of the caffeine, which makes me sweat a lot. This is already I knew, but somehow it was different this time. Other times in which I had inadvertently drank too much coffee, it often happened that I had bodily reactions that could be remedied with a stroll. I had often made it a good day out to Durajang, Dune Garden, June Garden. That's what it is. Foreigners. Before the strongest effects of the coffee wore off, whenever I drank too much coffee, I would usually have a chat with a friend. And at the time, such a walk was a pleasant opportunity for interesting discussions. This time, I was sitting with an acquaintance in the cafe, but my mind, I desired to be alone, when the feeling suddenly built up within me. I tried not to show it, and I drank my coffee pretending to be calm. My hands had cramped up around the cup, as if it was a pillar I had to hold on to amidst the raging storm. My friend kept talking about a book he was reading, and he didn't seem to notice anything unusual about me. Keep going, I told myself, but it was becoming more and more difficult for me to concentrate on what he was telling me. I had to focus all my energy in my hand to keep them from falling into a spasmodic cramp. The cup, the coffee cup, started to wobble in that weird way again, and then it bumped into the coaster, but I didn't make a sound. After that, it started to vibrate silently. I was surprised to see that the cup was wobbling while my hands were still holding it strongly, but calmly. Then I noticed that the coffee cup inside the cup was not moving in the slightest, despite the continuous vibration of its container. I was absolutely captivated by this phenomenon and completely forgot about my surroundings. I could hear my acquaintance speaking in the background, and I had not been so fascinated by the cup's strange behavior, it would have stricken me as most evident and unusual that my friend's voice sounded as if it was slowed down to a minimum. During all the time I spent gazing at my cup, it seemed to me that he had said only a couple words. It was as if time itself had stopped, or at least slowed down so that every second lasted several minutes. I blinked my eyes, irritated, as if blinded by the sunlight, although it barely reached us since we were sitting at the darkest corner of the cafe. My cup began to flash brightly, and after a while, my whole surroundings were brightly lit. The table was shining, the chairs were shining, the sugar bowl To the right of my cup was shining, and I saw a blinding light emitting from my friend. Across to my left, sitting at another table, there was a young girl. I kept glancing since we entered the cafe. She was attractive and something that almost distracted me from the conversation with my friend. And since she was alone and reading a book, she looked particularly interested in me. From her direction, I perceived an intense pulsating light. And while I tried to look away from the curious cup to glance at her table, I felt paralyzed. I couldn't move my eyes at all. Yes, I couldn't move my eyes at all. That wasn't a normal reaction to the couple of too many cups of coffee. I slowly started to panic and struggled to avoid being overcome by the feeling. Many different thoughts triggered in my mind. What the hell is happening? I am behaving strangely. Do I look weird? I'm having a psychotic break. But all of the above. Are all the people noticing anything? Thoughts flew through my mind. And when I say flew, I don't mean it in any way. I had experience before. In fact, I could see my thoughts, like flying objects dancing before me, like flaming strings of words. The more attention I gave to this phenomenon, the clearer my thoughts were, and the more they increased until I finally ended up almost drowned in jumping and dancing words and sentences. I felt I was going to vomit. The feeling of having to vomit was like a salvation. In the last couple of seconds, though, transformed into countless jumping and humming objects, like annoying little creatures, it was as if they were doing a horrible dance around me, mocking me without a care for me, and I couldn't control them. Meanwhile, nausea was boiling inside of me, and I felt it was like a chaotic wave, while the thoughts turned into objects, started flying like a horde of strident and streaking goblins. It was so absurd that my panic turned into an intense but silent laughing fit. The whole situation was almost pleasant. This wasn't a normal reaction to too much coffee. The thing I felt crawling towards my throat wasn't the sandwich I had just eaten. It was laughing fit, which started so intensified inside of me. A silent laughter came out of me and began overflowing my mouth like a fountain with every color of the rainbow. This is so crazy, I thought, and began laughing even more as I saw my own laughter before me in the same room. A voice at the table told me I had to control myself. Nobody must see that I'm behaving strangely. I thought, meanwhile, thoughts returned to me and luckily stopped jumping in front of my eyes and around me. I was paralyzed, but felt that I could recover some sort of control over myself. My attentions turned again towards my friend, and then I noticed that he had said only one word of the sentence he was just beginning to say. Time stopped just now. I thought quickly, analyzing my situation. I concluded that there were three possible explanations for what I had just happened. Or maybe I just had gone insane. But at that moment, being knowledgeable in psychology, I knew that what was happening wasn't just a regular kind of insanity. Social and genetic factors were decisive, and I didn't have them, or at least not to my knowledge. Those clear hallucinations are very rare in psychotic people, and tend to happen mostly to people who have taken hallucinogen drugs. What if my friend put LSD in my coffee while I was in the bathroom? That wasn't possible coming from a conscientious law student. Or maybe a terrorist put some drug in my coffee jar. This seemed to me even less probable. The third option was more likely. At the moment, I was having a spontaneous out-of-body experience, an astral projection in which consciousness leaves the physical body away. I was still very young when I first experienced an out-of-body experience. A sound from a basement in my parents' house had woken me up And since I was so curious, I slid out of bed to see what was causing the noise. As I was going downstairs, I noticed that I was flying or floating like some kind of ghost. Because the experience happened a long time ago, I don't remember my reaction very well. What I do remember is that I don't think much of it. I probably thought that it was some kind of strange dream, or perhaps the world is its greatness and totally was very uniquely for a small child of whom such an experience was no stranger than any. The basement pulsed softly in a green and red. A shadow approached me and then took shape of a human body. At first, I was scared, however. I steeled myself looking at the shadow, which slowly began to take my own shape. Almost like a dark reflection, the fear got even more out of control, and I ran to the second floor, to my parents' room, trying to wake my mother up. I passed my hand over her body, but it went right through her as if she were a ghost. Right there, I woke up in my room and finally could run to my parents, who I was lucky to be able to wake up this time. Wow, that's good. Okay, I wonder why the dogs are barking so much. Sorry about the noise in the background, people. Before I started to go to school, I had such an out-of-body experience on the regular basis, even though at the time I didn't know about them at that term. It is it's as its name implies, such an experience gives the sensation of finding yourself outside your physical body. Ah, here we go. Okay, sorry about that. Not is it more interesting than what was going on in the physical world, but rather it was simply a part of life itself. Sometimes it was kind of scary, but no more than when a lady from the neighborhood scolded me and my friends for doing something stupid. It wasn't until I got older that I realized that out of body experiences might have something to do with the big questions about life and death. When I started school at an age of 7, I became so hooked on about what I could learn there, and that the number of out of body experiences decreased. It could be said that the school taught me a vision of the world in which this type of experience had no place. Due to the development of our modern society, the way people see reality has become mechanicalistic. Yeah. We compare ourselves to images, computers, and other technical mechanical devices. To man, soul has become a poetic metaphor, or has simply disappeared from the world overview due to its rationalization. When I started reading about occult phenomena and the out of body experiences early in my youth, my interest in these topics, which had already been a normal part of my childhood, was reawakened. However, I soon understood that descriptions of such experiences were viewed with great skepticism. They just didn't fit into the mechanicalistic worldview, despite such widespread resistance against soul experiences. Much of the statistics suggested that many people have indeed had or will have an outer body experiences during their lifetimes. Anesthesiologist Gorgon Grip explained that about 1 in 5 people have such experiences, and historian of religion Dr. Henrik Bogdan comments that this is very common phenomena in children and adolescents. Maybe that's why children wake up having bad dreams. You ever notice that? For those who have already had outer body experience, it is clear that the soul is not just a poetic metaphor, but something that is perceived as real, as concrete and pliable as the physical body. For many, an out of body experience is linked to a traumatic sensation of dying or going insane. The problem is that these people do not know any point of view that can explain such experiences. In fact, most modern, secularized people equate experiences of that kind with madness or extreme, vivid fantasies, despite the fact that countless evidence of outer body experiences can be found in all times and cultures. In my youth, when I noticed the cult nature of my experiences, I tried to find a way or a philosophy that could help me structure these things in an understandable way. After studying for some time, I discovered that there are many ancient traditions that describe such occult experiences, and I also discovered how to learn to control them. Already, the ancient Greeks and Pythagoreans and Plato, first and foremost, had described different dimensions in a very advanced and systematic way. Neoplatonics formulated many of the fundamental theories about other worlds, as we can find them today in the theories that speak of hidden experiences. From neoplasm, we retain the terms astral body, astral plane, and astral world. Astral comes from the Latin word australis, which refers to something that belongs to the stars. The Latin word for star is astrum. Neoplastic philosophy held the idea that between the highest world and the human one, there is an intermediate world called the world of the stars, or the astral world. Man can access this astral world when he dreams, when in the state of spiritual trance, or when he dies. The only part of man that can enter the astral plane is called the astral body, and such a grip it's called astral travel, or trip, or astral projection. The astral body is described as an invisible version of the physical body, which can naturally fly and pass through walls. Some paranormal researchers consider ghosts and spirits as astral bodies that, for one reason or another, do not want to leave this world after the person's physical death. On these subjects, I could talk for hours with my friend in the cafe in Stockholm. It wouldn't be uncommon after one too many cups of coffee forced us to take a long walk around the Djurgården to shake off caffeine stress. It was already almost part of our coffee rituals. What definitely convinced me that I had just had a spontaneous out-of-body experience was the curious paralysis that I experienced beforehand. I would often wake up in the middle of the night to find myself in a paralyzed state. My body felt tired, or as somehow was still sleeping when my conscious was fully awake. The first couple of times this happened, I was scared. Being locked up in my own body made my heart pound intensively, giving me a very unpleasant feeling. I used to wake up after a while in my normal state of consciousness, luckily able to move my own body again. Just like what happened with the coffee, I used to perceive some kind of reality, strong light phenomena emitted around me. When paralyzed, or while paralyzed, sometimes I could see things that seemed to come from the inside of me, or that were making their way into the room from a parallel reality. Sometimes it seemed as if rays of light were being emitted from objects, especially from the plants, into the windowsill. When I glimpsed things that did not come from the same room, from another unknown dimension, it seemed that all the corners of the room began to vibrate intensely. The room doubled itself and gave me the impression of being in a parallel room. Luckily, I was able to find books that describe the phenomenon of waking up with a clear consciousness, but with the body paralyzed, and they repeated this clarification. This is called hypnotic paralysis, or sleep paralysis, and in itself is not uncommon. Most people find sleep paralysis unpleasant. I did too, until a spiritual discovery made me begin to appreciate it differently. The state of sleep paralysis first arose when I really began to study the different forms of occult experiences can take. It may be that I had experienced it before, but I had forgotten or repressed it, since at the time I still lacked the type of clarification for what I was experiencing. During my youth, my interest in religion and spiritual occult and phenomena increased. It happened to me quite often, and I did not give a damn about my homework. And instead of doing it, I read old occult classics from the 18th century, such as Transcendental Magic, Its Doctrine and Rituals by Lucius Levi, and The Secret Doctrine of Madame Blavatsky. I also read the biography of Agenda Upmans, a high school teacher, in which she describes her out-of-body experiences through its understandable style. The book allowed me to understand that ordinary people can also have out-of-body experiences of this kind. So with such a large arsenal of occult and parapsychological theories in mind, I was able to enter the state of sleep paralysis with growing curiosity. It happened with some regularity, but at first, weeks or even months passed between such occasions. But later, they started happening every night. Before I got used to the phenomenon, it scared me, and it made me want to try to wake up. But over time, I learned to master my emotions and was able to curiously calm myself during sleep paralysis in order to study in a more detail. I could even delay the state, which ultimately caused the weird and otherworldly effect it had on me to intensify. While sleep paralysis was still highly unusual for me, at best I could see the ceiling of the room where I slept, even though my eyes were closed, and at the time hear my heart beating definitely. But when I began to gain control over these experiences, their contents became more and more fascinating and impressive. Parallel rooms opened in the middle of my own, and I saw silhouettes of moving beings. Sometimes it seemed that a forest was growing in the middle of my room. Then I could see through the forest a great forest landscape stretched before my eyes, lighting and sound phenomena, all kinds, tunnels of light that rotated in all the colors of the rainbow, or formed kaleidoscope patterns, all of which could suddenly emerge throughout the room. The noises seemed like bubbling streams, underwater bubbles, distant voices, or chirping birds. A recurring noise sounded like a propeller spinning somewhere above my head. Sound, the light, the phenomenon morphed into each other, and at times I could perceive the noise of this propeller as a blinding, rotating disk of light. According to some books on theosophy and yoga philosophy from India, there is a kind of energy zone at the crown of the head or directly above the head. There are different names for this area, but the most common denomination is Shakara chakra, and it is seen as the highest of 7 chakras. The term chakra originated in India yoga philosophy and refers to particular energy zones in people. The lowest chakra is called the Muladhara and is associated with the essential instincts such as eating, fleeing, or instinct to defend oneself. The next plane, the level Shwandhanaka, is linked to the sexual organs and the sexual instinct. The third chakra is called Manipura and controls personal desires and one's ego. The fourth is called Anahata and is associated with feelings and empathy. Vishdui is the name of the fifth chakra and is located in the throat and has to do with communication and intelligence. The sixth is Jhana. It is also called the third eye. Some authors believe that it corresponds to the Epiphanius small organ, part of the Sleepiana. In illustrations from yoga literature, it is located between the eyebrows and resembles an eye turned. Yeah, that's the pineal gland. That's what he's talking about, the pineal gland. and also resembles a female sexual organ. Function is the enlightenment and understanding, and likewise the function of spiritual rebirth. The seventh and last plane is not a chakra according to some books, but reflects God itself, or himself, Shiva, who is also called by many the consciousness of God. When I perceived the disk of light rotating above my head, unusually clear during a sleep paralysis, I was convinced that this chakra is the one described by the Hindus in their ancient writings. This chakra is linked to out-of-body experiences as Shawahara. It is described in many texts as the porthole through which the soul leaves the physical body, travels through higher spiritual dimensions. Passing through this chakra would also lead to spiritual enlightenment and would make it possible to enter a divine consciousness. Well, we are going to leave off right there, people. I hope you're enjoying this story. We're going to keep it short so that we keep on track. Don't want to bore you. Maybe you're liking this, maybe you're not. This is this guy's journey. Now remember, this is the book right here. I'm going back. I guess I better stop sharing. This is the book right here. I guess you could get it on eBay. That's where I got mine. But anyway, go out and get it. Go read it. I don't have a PDF for it. Sorry. But you can listen to it right here, and we're going to go through that book. Maybe not the whole thing. Maybe we will. I don't know. Depends on how much you enjoy it. If you really enjoy it, let me know. Put a comment below, and we'll keep reading it. But I'm going to do 2 or 3 episodes on this. And if it sparks your attention and you keep watching, I'll keep on doing it until we finish it up. But it is a long, well, it ain't that long of a book. But anyway, I hope you all enjoying. Remember, go out and do something nice for somebody. Practice on your astral travel. Maybe you're having astral travel already and you really don't know it, like this guy did. Do you have funny things happen and you don't tell anybody? How do you know? Have you studied on it? Well, I think that's a good thing, just to study up on it. Maybe you'll find out what you're doing isn't so bad after all. So remember, go out and do something nice for somebody. Remember, go out, be the frequency you want to receive, everyone.